They say betrayal feels like a knife through your heart. But what no one tells you is that it's not just one sharp jab. No, betrayal comes in waves, like the dull ache of a wound reopening every time you take a breath. I learned this the hard way. And let me tell you, nothing could have prepared me for what I uncovered. It all began on a Friday evening, one of those nights when the world seems peaceful, and you almost believe nothing could ever go wrong. I had just put our daughter to bed and was pouring myself a glass of wine, the bottle still cold from the fridge. My husband, David, had been distant lately, distracted, always glued to his phone. I told myself it was work stress. It had to be. But deep down, a small, insidious voice whispered, "What if it's more than that?" Looking back now, I think I always knew something was off. There were signs, subtle ones at first. He was suddenly wearing cologne every time he left the house, even for mundane errands like grabbing milk from the store. His phone, once casually left on the counter, was now always in his pocket, face down. And then, there was his laughter, that soft, intimate chuckle he once reserved for me. Now it felt like it belonged to someone else. The first crack appeared the night I found lipstick on his shirt. I remember holding it up to the light, the faint smear of crimson glaring back at me. He laughed it off, saying it must have been from one of his coworkers during a hug. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. But that voice inside me whispered again, louder this time. Weeks went by and the tension between us grew thicker. My best mate, Rachel, was my anchor during those times. She would come over for tea and we'd sit for hours talking about everything and nothing. Rachel was my rock, my sister from another mother. She knew all my secrets, my fears, my doubts about David, and she always reassured me that I was overthinking. "Men are daft sometimes," she'd say with a wink, "but David loves you. Don't be paranoid." Then came the night I found the first clue. David had left his laptop open on the dining table, something he never did. As I walked past, the screen lit up with a notification, an email from our neighbor, Claire. It was harmless enough, a simple, "Can you meet tomorrow at 2?" But something about it felt off. Why was Claire emailing my husband? They barely spoke at barbecues. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened his email. At first there was nothing unusual. Work messages, subscription reminders, spam. But then I saw a folder labeled personal. My hands trembled as I clicked on it. Inside were dozens of emails between David and Claire, each one more damning than the last. "I can't stop thinking about last night," one read. Another said, "When can I see you again? I miss your touch." My heart plummeted. Claire, our sweet, friendly neighbor, the one who baked cookies for the kids and hosted game nights, was having an affair with my husband. But the worst was yet to come. Fueled by rage and a burning need for answers, I started digging deeper. I went through his text messages, his call logs, his calendar, and that's when I found her name. Rachel, my best mate. She wasn't just my confidant, she was David's too. The pieces began to fall into place. The long phone calls he claimed were work-related. The sudden late-night grocery runs. The inside jokes between him and Rachel that I never understood. One night, I followed him. He told me he was meeting a client at a nearby pub, but my gut told me otherwise. I parked my car a few blocks away and watched as he walked into a dimly lit bar, not with Claire, but with Rachel. They sat in a booth, their heads close together, whispering and laughing. She touched his arm and he leaned in, his face inches from hers. I couldn't breathe. My two worlds, my marriage and my friendship, collided in that moment, shattering into a million pieces. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no, it gets worse. The next day, I confronted David. I waited until our daughter was at school and then laid the emails and photos on the table. His face turned ashen, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. He didn't deny it. How could he? The evidence was irrefutable. What I didn't expect was his confession. "It's not just Claire," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "And it's not just Rachel." My stomach churned. "How many, David? How many women?" He looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "4," he said finally. 4. One of them was a colleague from work. Another was someone he met at the gym. But it was Claire and Rachel who hurt the most. They weren't just women, they were my people, my circle, my family. I confronted Rachel next. She tried to play the victim, claiming David had pursued her, that she felt trapped, that she didn't want to hurt me. But her excuses fell flat. "You didn't want to hurt me," I screamed. "You sat in my house, drank my tea, and listened to me cry about him while you were sleeping with him behind my back." And Claire? She denied everything at first, even as I showed her the emails. "It's not what you think," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But the truth has a way of surfacing, doesn't it?" She finally broke down, admitting to the affair but blaming her failing marriage as the catalyst. The fallout was explosive. Claire's husband filed for divorce. Rachel's husband threw her out of the house. And David? He begged for forgiveness, swearing he'd change, that he loved me and our family. But love doesn't look like betrayal. It doesn't look like secrets and lies. For weeks, I was a shell of myself, going through the motions, pretending for the sake of our daughter. But inside, I was unraveling. The betrayal didn't just break my heart. It broke my trust, my sense of safety, my belief in the people I loved most. One night, I woke up to find David standing over me. His face was shadowed, his eyes hollow. "You'll ruin everything," he said, his voice cold and unfamiliar. I don't know if it was a threat or a plea, but it sent shivers down my spine. That's when I knew I had to leave. For my safety, for my sanity, for my daughter. It's been a year now since that night. I've rebuilt my life piece by piece. I moved to a new city, started therapy, and found a job that gives me purpose. My daughter and I are thriving, but the scars remain. I still flinch when I see a text notification on someone's phone. I still hesitate to let new people into my life. Trust is a fragile thing, and once it's broken, it's hard to repair. They say time heals all wounds, but I'm not sure that's true. Time might dull the pain, but the memory of betrayal, the sound of their laughter, the sight of his emails, the feel of that knife twisting in my heart will stay with me forever. And that's my story.